Hello and welcome to another edition of Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. If you like this video, please push like and share with your family, friends, neighbors, enemies, etc. Today's video is about manipulating the prison systems. I laugh because I'm thinking of my favorite person, and I mean that sarcastically, the chief probation officer here in the federal system, Western District of Arkansas. And I laugh because of the word manipulation. It's a personal thing. But, and by the way, too, said chief probation officer, thank you. You gave me time to talk to myself about certain things, and I appreciate that, really. Anyway, but I am serious about the video, the subject matter, and you'll understand what I'm saying. I'm not trying to go out and tell guys to commit crimes, but let me get on with the show. Okay. In the early 90s, it was the first time I went to state prison. It was the Arkansas Department of Correction. The Arkansas Department of Correction has a system where the majority of inmates meet the parole board. Except for life without parole, I think all, now come to think of it. I met a guy by the name of William Bayless. I've talked about this in past videos. But William Bayless, I think he was out of Baxter County, Arkansas. He was a musician, an alcoholic for sure, dabbled a little drugs, I think, at some times, but he was predominantly an alcoholic, who was married to an impaired woman and had a struggling marriage due to alcohol. Had a bad breakup, I believe, and anyway, was driving home one night and tragically wrecked his car, and somebody in the had a head-on collision. The other person died. He was indeed charged with vehicular manslaughter and sentenced to 6 years in prison. In the same county, within the same month, there was a different individual called Mr. B. I don't remember this guy's name. But so Mr. B, same thing, vehicular manslaughter, same county, gets a 6-year sentence. Mr. B had a criminal record, and I think it was extensive. I believe he even did time in the Arkansas Department of Corrections before. William Bayless was in his 40s and had no criminal record whatsoever, no DUI, nothing, as far as I can remember. William Bayless was a library clerk like myself. There was 2 or 3 of us that were clerks, and so we worked together. He was not a criminal. Yes, he did what he did. It was tragic, but he was not in any kind of criminal matters. He wasn't a drug dealer. He wasn't a fraudster, whatever you want to say. He was not. And in prison, he was what you would consider a square or a model inmate. This guy did not, we had lines in Arkansas in some prisons. You had to walk the lines or on the other side of the lines back in the day, and he wasn't crossing the line. He was going to do everything right and cut no corners, and that's a fact. I believe at the time, I think it was a Class D felony, so you do about 18 months before you meet the board. I believe that's how it worked back then, and that's the parole board. And again, William did everything right. Had community support, family support, and in prison did everything correct. Mr. B went to prison and crossed all lines and stayed in the hole and got in trouble and got in fights, and really was amazing that he was out of the hole at the time, or not in some kind of trouble at the time that he went in front of the parole board. Well, when the decisions came back, and I think it's a few days later, I forgot, it's been so many years, Mr. B was granted parole. William Bayless was not. So the model inmate who has no criminal history, whose circumstances are identical as far as his crime, doesn't get out. But the career criminal, I don't know if he was a career criminal, but the guy with the criminal past and was anything but a model inmate gets granted parole. In the California Department of Corrections, time and time again, when people would go up for parole that I would know of, the model inmate was not getting out. The person who at least had some kind of prior poor institutional conduct, I should say, was granted parole. And you wonder what the hell's going on. Now, when it comes to the parole board, there are certain criteria. You have to admit remorse. You have to take acceptance, responsibility, have remorse, have a community plan. Again, that's not about this show. I forgot the exact criteria. I know it, and I have it written some down here somewhere. It's pretty much the same in all systems, pretty much. But same thing happened in California. I watched this. In the federal system. Although they did away with the parole board in 1987, I believe it was. Thank you, Ted Kennedy, Joe Biden, and others. There are still people in the federal system that go in front of a parole board that is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as the years go. They took away parole in the feds in 1987, I believe it was. They have a supervised release, which that's what I'm on. So it's like probation after you get out, which is actually harder than parole sometimes. But yeah, they don't have a parole board. Well, the guys that were under the old law or the old new law, we won't even go there, it's all complicated in the feds, who did go in front of the parole board, I saw the same thing happen again and again and again. And the military prisoners, same thing. That is, that guys who were total F-ups in prison would be granted parole. Or they would get their dates set off like 18 months. Were guys that were model inmates, they'd say come back in 2 years or whatever. I forgot the exact number, so don't leave stuff in the comment section. My point being, I'll say I had one of my brothers, former gang member brother, dirty white boy. Let's call him Kenny. That's his name. I just won't say his last name. He was a serious disciplinary problem and the leader of the largest white prison gang in Leavenworth at that time. There was guys in a cell shooting dope. So you had drugs in a spoon. You had an outfit, which is a syringe, which is contraband, and you got a guy keeping point at the door. Cop walks in, they block the cop, boom, hit the cop, that's assault on an officer. Just blocking him because they didn't want him to come in and they didn't want him to A, take the drugs or get the paraphernalia. As a matter of fact, I think as the cop was coming in, Kenny was putting the needle in his arm and telling the other guy to stop him, so he can get the drugs in his system. No, it's maybe not so funny, but it's something like that. So he got a paraphernalia shot, dirty urine, and assault on an officer. And all three guys, I believe, in the cell did. There was 3 at the time. Kenny goes in front of the parole board. He makes parole. They say, okay, just got in trouble for this. He makes parole. He gets out of the hole, identical circumstances, guys in the cell shooting dope, one at the door, keeping point, cop bust in. They want to get high. There's drugs right here, so they throw the outfit, want to flush the outfit in the toilet, outfit syringe, or works. There's a bunch of different names for it. And he gets the same 3 shots, dirty urine, drug paraphernalia. They didn't get possession of drugs because they did it. And assault on an officer for one of the guys touching an officer. It would be like, for example, somebody involved in a murder. If 2 guys go to rob a store, one's in the getaway car, one goes in, shoots a guy and kills him, they're both charged with murder. Same thing. If guy walks into a cell, guys, excuse me, wow, I should be racist. No, I can't. I just ate yogurt. If a guy, that was terrible. If a guy keeps point at a cell and a cop walks in, he hits him, all 3 are getting tagged with assaulting an officer. Or they can and they did and then whatever. So Kenny, after being granted parole, gets an 18 month set, does it again, and they give him like a year set off this time. Another guy, a military prisoner, his name was Charles. Now, Kenny was a drug offender. This is true. These guys didn't know each other, and it was 2 different prisons, by the way. So what happens here is Charles was in prison for shooting law enforcement, and he was a former military guy for years. I want to say he was an MP, African American out of District Columbia, by the way. Heroin addict, got out of the military. Was an heroin addict, but he had life with parole in the DC system. I think that's how it was. Or no, so it was in the feds, but he was under old law, something of that nature. 30 years, this man was never received an infraction, disciplinary shot, whatever you want to call it. In the feds, we call disciplinary shots. Never got one in 30 years, 3-0. Goes in front of the parole board. They said he was manipulating the system. That the clear conduct was all a part of his manipulation. Literally said that in their opinion. I read it with my own eyes. So I then had talked to some other staff members that were involved in the parole process that said that they had seen that before. That wasn't uncommon. Charles showed remorse, acknowledged the crime, but because he didn't get in any trouble, they considered it manipulating the system. And you're just like, what? Okay. So you got a lot of mafia guys, right? A lot of mafia guys, you can say, then manipulate the system. They come in, they're angels, they try to do their time, however that much that may be, and they go back out and they do it again. Is that manipulating the system? Possibly. They're trying to do the right thing so that, they're trying to not get in any trouble so they can get back out and go back into organized crime. In a lot of cases, you know what I mean? I'm not saying everybody, different circumstances are different. So I have a solution to this. And now I've seen this in the military under the military system as well. I think Charlie Roberts is a case. It was a guy out of Texas named Charlie Roberts. Actually, he was California, moved to Texas later. Really good guy. I'm just thinking of the other military prisoners that were model inmates, didn't get any trouble. I'm sorry, Charlie was not a model inmate, but he got out. And then there's other guys, model inmates, didn't get out. So the solution, I think, is this. And I'm sorry, parole departments. I'm sorry, judges, state and federal. But look at it from this way. If a guy is going to get punished for doing the right thing in prison, and I'm telling you, it happens over and over and over again. And there's a theory, by the way, before I give the solution, there's a theory that people who don't get in any trouble in prison are not going to go out and violate. Therefore, they're trying to get as much time out of them as they can. That's the theory in prison. That's the group think or the common think amongst prisoners. Okay, so this isn't just me making this up. This is a lot of guys that have done time will concur with what I'm saying. So let's look at my situation, for example, okay? And this isn't just about parole probation. This could be about compassionate release. This could be about clemency. This could be about any kind of motion in state and federal prison that would allow a sentencing court to look back on an inmate's conduct or a defendant's conduct and say, where is this guy now? In my case, I went to prison in the first 10 or 11 years. I got 25 serious disciplinaries, 25. Including there was like 5 violence, right? But for the last 13 years of my incarceration, not a single infraction. Now, I did do better. I was not doing what I did before. I was not an angel. I took a few programs, but the programs were so lacking. I did take a non-alcohol and residential drug treatment program. And you know what? It did give me some basic tools to kind of look at and reflect on when I was getting too strung out. And I'm not saying, there's guys that know me, I did use Suboxone, and the reason I was able to maintain clear conduct from the last 13 years is because Suboxone, they didn't test for it at the time. Suboxone is a synthetic opiate, for people that don't know, that was designed to get people off of opiates. But you can get high off of it if you cut it in pieces. Different video for different day. People know what I'm saying. So that's true. There is true. I probably would have gotten in trouble for some dirty urines had not. But it is also true that I did do clear, I did almost 4 years clean, and then I used periodically. There was times I used in 14, 16, 8, whatever the deal was. Sometimes it was a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months, 6 months, then I'd stop for a year, whatever the deal was. As a matter of fact, I don't even know. I think I used more than I thought, and I've got some diaries that I'll reflect back on, and it'll come out because I'll end up reading these diaries. I thought they were going to be published at some point, but I realized not too long ago that I think I was fooling myself, and I actually used more in prison than I even believed that I did. But okay, it's for a different day. But here's the truth. My conduct, as far as on paper, 13 years clear conduct. So I'm sure, and I know my judge watches this, and I'm sure my sentencing judge looked back on it and saw the change. And there was a change, in spite of the fact that I did use, like I just said, okay? There for sure was a change. You know how many times I could have gotten a fight or wanted just to do some really stupid stuff, and I didn't. And a lot of times I didn't because I had Marta, my wife, in my life. And I used to get angry at her because I felt like she neutered me. But anyway, it's a different story. I'm getting too personal, as always. But I am sure, and I think it even came up in my judge's order. And I wasn't manipulating anybody at that point. I just wasn't getting caught for any of the Suboxone I used. But I did change. I did grow up. There was a change in me. But my first 10 years, imagine for a second, and I have no idea what's in my judge's heart or any other judge's heart for the matter. I don't know. But imagine they look back and they see, guys, just clear conduct. I don't know. I do know that I've seen time and time again, the courts, the probation officers look at guys that were model inmates and not give them credit for being model inmates. There are cases that they have. I've seen praise as well. But look at it from this point of view. And this is what this video is all about, because I have seen so many times parole boards do this. A guy comes into prison with these sentences that they hand out, especially in the feds. This get tough on crime era that they had since the late 80s or whatever, truth and sentencing and all that crap that they labeled it. The guys get boatloads of time, right? And especially the guys that are in their 20s and 30s. Boatloads of time are still being handed out, particularly in the federal system. So here's my solution. When guys go in their 20s and 30s, and sometimes early 40s, and have done no time, guys are looking at, people are looking at them. They want to do a heart check. They want to see where you're at. They want you to make your bones, and that's gang or no gang. If you're in the United States or the USPs or maximum security prisons in the federal system, you're automatically in some kind of a group or a gang, even independents. You know, you're white, you're black, you're Mexican, you're Puerto Rican, blah, 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 blah. And so at any given time, things can pop off. So my solution is get down first. And what I mean by that is get disciplinaries, get shots, act a fool, run amok for the first 2 years of your incarceration. What this does is, within the prison environment, it shows guys, okay, this is a guy, we'll go. Okay, we can count on him. Whatever you want to say. It's all bull crap, but whatever you want to say, right? You get your disciplinaries, get your bad record, bad boy, get a couple, you'll lose a little good time, or whatever, maybe more than a little. It's true. Depends on how serious. I'm not saying go kill somebody. I am saying serious shots, so alcohol, drugs, and fighting, not assault, because that's even more serious. You don't want to kill nobody. But go get those. You know, get a handful of, not a handful, but whatever. Go hard for 2 years. If you're doing a 10-year sentence or even a 6-year sentence or better, go hard. And then pull back, grow up, reflect back, think about it, and become a model inmate. Do the right thing. Sadly, I think this is the solution to what these parole boards, to what I've seen done. And from personal experience, from me, I know it might sound wrong. I know some people in the government might go, what the hell, but please listen to what I'm saying. I'm not recommending this. It would be better if guys can go in and be model inmates. But if they're getting punished for it, what the fuck? And if they could, pacify all these stooges in prison, like I used to be, like, we got to get that guy, he's got to go on this mission, he's got to do, then you're killing two birds with one stone. It shows growth. It shows rehabilitation, right? And that's the truth. And as we all know, in most systems, rehabilitation is lacking. Rehabilitation on paper looks like clear conduct, looks like you behaved in prison. And sure, if you want to pad your jacket with a bunch of these bullshit programs or certificates, that's what they are, most of them. I'm not saying every system, I'm not saying all over. Most of the certificates that you see, judges, family members, everybody, inmates either bought them, because you can buy them for very cheap, and inmates can put them in your jacket. because there are very few teachers paying attention or teaching classes at all. It's all a big frickin' scam, the programming stuff. Now, I've heard, that's when I was in. I've been out 20 something months. I hope programs get real. I hope they become more meaningful. But reflecting back, looking on it, most of them were bullshit. And I even put that in my motion when I filed to the courts and gave examples of it. Sad, it's sad, but it's true. Anyway, I know this might be a little controversial. I know some people in the powers that be might not like this, but that's my truth, right? And that's just my suggestion, is skewed as it may be, or whatever you want to say. And that's based on experience, man. So think about it. Again, so in the federal system, anything under 10 years is considered county jail time. That's crazy, but it's true. Even us people, convicts, prisoners, inmates, have become conditioned to these long sentences that are just terrible, that serve no purpose. Giving drug dealers life sentences, 25 years, 15 years, and having systems flooded with drugs. I mean, it's not like everybody's just allowing it, but, well, in certain cases, hell, I know. I heard from my own ears wardens say, let them get high, let them get drunk. Hell, I started drinking because they didn't care. It was during COVID, but I started drinking again, I should say, right before I got out. But I didn't. I drank because I chose to drink, not because the warden did it. But anyway, that's the video for today. It is what it is. If anybody takes my advice, just please be careful. Don't kill nobody. That's not one of my intent. My thing was to just be aware. Go in. Matter of fact, that'd be even better. If you're in whatever state you're in, if you're in the feds, or if you've got a long period of time and you're hoping to file 2255, clemency, compassion release, whatever it may be, look and see what the judge in your area is doing. Look and see if you see that language about manipulating being a model inmate. I question Mr. So-and-so's behavior. You know, he was slick on the streets. I mean, they're not saying that, but just pay attention. Do your homework. And we'll talk about filing motions and what to and to not to say to certain courts on a different video. I had mentioned before that I read judges' words and kind of flipped them. I didn't mean use them against them in a bad way. There's usually judges have a pattern of wording that they use when they deny somebody motions. And I had said before in a video that I flipped or something, and I think it was taken the wrong way. I didn't mean it in a bad way. I just meant that I did a lot of research on my judge's opinions and was looking for his language and was trying to use his language so that I was trying to box, him. And that wasn't to I've done that in many different briefs that I've used, and I learned it from none other than Eddie Cox, who was a former lead, a white guy who led the black mafia in Kansas City that I did a video about. Probably one of the most famous jailhouse attorneys of all time, who's about 88 years old. And by the way, Eddie Cox and Russell Marks and the lawyer that they work under, congratulations for just getting another lifer out of prison. As we speak, a former captain, Kansas City Mafia, is walking out of prison. John Massera. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. I don't want to. Oh, it's on that phone. Walking out of prison. Samaritan Project, by the way, did that. 15 in the last 2 years. Lifers they got out of prison. Hopefully I'll be able to get some kind of interview from the attorney working on that case. But congratulations to them both. It's amazing, amazing what you, Eddie Cox, and what you, Russell Marks, and the attorneys that they're working under have done. Just amazing. Imagine being in prison for over 30 years for drug charges. It's rusty. And walking out more than 15 guys. It's lifers, guys that had no hope whatsoever. Freaking amazing. Congratulations on you both. Take care.